My dear friends, tonight before you go to bed, I want you to pause for a moment and breathe deeply. There is a psalm that can change the atmosphere of your heart. When you read it, when you allow its words to sink into your spirit, money problems, heavy worries, and financial fears can begin to lose their grip. Many people lie down at night with stress. They calculate bills, debts, payments, and sleep escapes them. But the psalm speaks of rest, provision, and peace. When you let that word enter your heart, your mind begins to quiet. Your fears begin to soften. Imagine this: you are lying down, not with fear of tomorrow, but with a confidence that your life is in the hands of the one who provides. The psalm becomes like a gentle lullaby to your spirit, a shield around your mind. Friends, I have seen so many who came with financial struggles. They prayed, they worried, they tried everything. But when they learned to rest in the promises of God through the Psalms, something shifted. Sometimes the next day opportunities appeared. Sometimes debts were solved. Sometimes unexpected provision came. The Psalm is not just words, it is spirit, it is life. And when you declare it before sleeping, it goes ahead of you into your tomorrow. Money problems may look big, but the Psalm reminds you that peace is bigger, provision is bigger, and your rest is the key to receiving. So tonight, I encourage you, don't fall asleep with worry. Fall asleep with the Psalm in your heart. Whisper it, believe it, and expect that overnight a miracle can happen. Rest is a doorway to blessing. When you sleep with peace, answers come faster. Think about it carefully. Every day people run, work, hustle, and chase. They spend hours planning and calculating, but when night comes, instead of resting, their mind keeps running. They lie in bed with eyes open, thinking about the bills, thinking about the job, thinking about the debts. Their body lies down, but their heart is standing up. In that condition, even though they are lying on a bed, they are not resting. And because they are not resting, the blessings that are trying to come to them cannot enter. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not giving up. Rest is a spiritual decision. When you choose to let go of worry before you sleep, when you say to yourself, I have done what I can today, the rest is not in my hands tonight. That moment you open a doorway, and through that doorway, blessings can come. Imagine a farmer. He works the soil, plants the seed, waters the ground. But at night, he does not sit beside the soil and cry, why are you not growing? Why is the seed not breaking open? No, he goes to bed. He trusts that in the darkness, unseen things are happening. The seed is splitting, roots are going down, life is forming. And when morning comes, the process is already at work. Your life is the same. You plant effort in the day. You take action, you use wisdom. But at night, you must rest, because at night, the invisible power works on your behalf. When you rest, things rearrange, ideas form, opportunities align. The phone call you were waiting for, the payment you thought was impossible, the open door you didn't see, they begin to move in your direction. Many people do not realize this. They think the harder they worry, the faster the answer comes. But worry is not a worker. Worry is a thief. It steals your energy. It steals your clarity. It steals your tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. Have you noticed that when you worry all night, you wake up weaker? You face the day tired, and because you are tired, you make mistakes. But when you sleep in peace, you wake up stronger, your mind is fresh, and sometimes the solution that seemed hidden yesterday suddenly shines in your thoughts in the morning. Think of a businessman carrying heavy weight on his shoulders. His company is struggling, debts are rising, and his mind is storming. Every night he goes to bed but cannot sleep. Finally, he decides to let go. He speaks peace over his mind. He reads a psalm before sleep, and he tells himself, tonight I will rest, because tomorrow has its answers. When he does this, he wakes up not only refreshed, but with a new idea. That idea opens a new door, and the financial struggle begins to turn. There was once a mother with many responsibilities. Bills were piling up, children needed care, and her heart was heavy. She would cry every night until she fell asleep. But someone told her, before you sleep, release your burden, speak peace, and rest. She tried it. At first it felt unnatural, but soon she found her nights becoming calm. And then unexpected help began to arrive. A neighbor supported her, a new job opportunity appeared, and her money problems started melting away. Friends, peace is not weakness. Peace is strength. When you sleep with peace, you are not ignoring reality. You are choosing to trust that reality can change. And the amazing thing is, answers really do come faster when you rest. Your mind becomes sharper. Your spirit becomes lighter. Your body becomes stronger. And because of this, you attract better outcomes. Look at children. When they sleep, they do not worry about what they will eat tomorrow. They simply rest. And somehow, every morning, food is there, clothes are there, care is there. They live in peace. And because of that peace, their growth is steady. What if you could sleep like a child again? What if you could close your eyes without fear and wake up ready to receive? Rest is not passive. Rest is active trust. When you go to bed in peace, you are declaring that your life is not limited by today's trouble. You are saying a better tomorrow is waiting. This mindset is powerful. It changes how your day ends, and it changes how your day begins. So remember, the doorway is not opened by stress, by worry, or by fear. The doorway is opened by rest. And the moment you step through that doorway, you will see blessings that were already waiting for you, now rushing to meet you. Because when you sleep with peace, answers come faster. Would you like me to expand each daily life example into even more story, like dialogue between characters, or like the businessman talking to himself, or the mother speaking to her children, to push this closer to a full 15-minute spoken delivery? The Psalms carry hidden keys of provision when spoken with faith. Think for a moment about what a key does. A key looks small, sometimes simple, yet when you turn it, entire doors open. A door that looked impossible to pass through suddenly unlocks with one small turn. The Psalms are like that. They may look like ordinary words on a page, but when spoken with faith, they unlock doors of provision that seemed impossible. Many people read words, but they do not speak with faith. They speak with doubt, with fear, with heaviness in their hearts. And so, the key does not turn. But when the psalm is read with faith, with belief that it carries life, the key begins to fit perfectly into the lock of provision. Imagine a man sitting at his table late at night. His bills are scattered, his head in his hands. He whispers, "How will I survive? How will I pay?" His eyes are filled with tears. Then he remembers a psalm that says, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." He reads it out loud, not as a ritual, but with faith, as if those words were written personally for him. As he speaks it, something shifts in his heart. He feels lighter. The bills are still there, but his heart no longer feels chained. Within days, a new opportunity appears. A client calls him unexpectedly. He receives a payment he thought was lost. The psalm, spoken with faith, became the hidden key to open his provision. You see, words have power, but words with faith carry creative power. They do not just comfort the heart, they create pathways in life. When you speak a psalm with faith, you are planting a seed of provision. At first, you may not see it. It may look like nothing is changing. But just as a farmer trusts that his seed will grow, you must trust that the psalm is already working. There was a young woman who worked hard, yet no matter how much she earned, it never seemed enough. Every night she would worry about rent and groceries. One evening, she decided to read a psalm before sleep. She chose Psalm 34:10. "Those who seek the Lord lack no good thing." She whispered it, then said it again with conviction, almost like she was convincing her own soul. "I will not lack any good thing. My family will not lack. My table will not lack." Night after night, she repeated it. At first, nothing seemed to change, but then she began to notice small provisions. Discounts at the store, a friend gifting her groceries, unexpected bonuses at work. Little by little, the words became reality. Faith is not just belief, faith is action. And speaking is action. When you open your mouth and declare the Psalms over your situation, you are unlocking heaven's storehouse. Think about it, a closed mouth cannot speak life. Silence in the face of struggle only allows fear to grow louder. But when you speak the Psalms with faith, you silence fear and release provision. Picture a father talking to his children. The children ask, "Dad, do we have enough for tomorrow?" The father feels the pressure, but instead of showing fear, he gathers them and says, "Listen, the psalm says, I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor their children begging for bread." We will not beg, we will not lack. The children sleep peacefully that night, not because the money suddenly appeared, but because their father spoke faith through the psalm. Days later, he receives help from a relative, then a promotion at work. His children learn that words of faith open provision. Think also of a man who once told his friend, "I've tried everything, but nothing works." His friend replied, "Have you tried speaking the Psalms with faith?" The man laughed at first. "How can reading words solve my debt?" But later, when desperation grew, he tried. He chose Psalm 23, and every night he spoke, "My cup overflows." He said it when his wallet was empty, when his account showed zero. He said it when it felt foolish. But one day, he received a business idea in a dream, and that idea turned into a steady income. The psalm carried the hidden key of provision, but it unlocked only when he spoke it with faith. The world teaches people to complain, to confess shortage, to declare lack. But the Psalms teach us to declare abundance even in emptiness. Provision comes not by repeating fear, but by releasing faith. You may not have enough in your hands, but you always have the Psalms in your mouth. And that is the hidden key. Words create atmosphere. When you speak fear, the atmosphere around you tightens, it closes doors. But when you speak Psalms with faith, the atmosphere shifts to one of expectation and hope. That expectation attracts provision. Doors open, helpers arrive, new paths appear. Consider also a man working long hours in a shop. His wages are low and he feels hopeless. One night, exhausted, he remembers Psalm 121, "My help comes from the Lord." He whispers it while closing his eyes. In his heart, he believes. The next morning, someone walks into his shop and offers him a better job. He didn't chase it, he didn't force it. The psalm carried the hidden key, and faith turned it in the lock of provision. Every psalm is like a treasure chest, but a treasure chest remains closed unless you have the key. Faith is the hand that turns the key. When you read Psalms without faith, it is like looking at the chest without opening it. But when you speak with faith, the chest opens and provision flows out. Friends, the Psalms carry hidden keys of provision when spoken with faith. It does not matter how heavy your debt looks, how empty your wallet feels, or how closed the doors appear. If you can speak the Psalms with faith, you can unlock doors you never thought would open. Do you want me to add full conversations, like dialogues between father and children, friend to friend, mother to child, to make this even more powerful and relatable for a spoken 15-minute delivery? Worry closes the door, but peace opens the way for supply. Think about this carefully. Every time you allow worry to sit in your mind, it is like locking your own door from the inside. Opportunities can be knocking, blessings can be waiting outside, but worry keeps the door shut. Peace, on the other hand, is like turning the key, opening the door wide, and saying, "Come in." Imagine a man lying in bed at night. He turns from side to side, his mind racing. He says to himself, "What if I cannot pay the rent? What if I lose my job? What if tomorrow gets worse?" His heart pounds, his body sweats, his eyes cannot close. In that state, even if a solution is near, he cannot see it. He cannot recognize an open door because worry has blinded him. The next morning, he goes to work exhausted, and in his tiredness, he misses an opportunity his boss offered. The door was there, but worry kept it locked. Now picture another man in the same situation. Bills are due, work is uncertain. But instead of letting worry control him, he sits quietly before bed. He reads a psalm and whispers, "I will lie down and sleep in peace, for you make me dwell in safety." He breathes slowly, releases his fear, and closes his eyes. He sleeps deeply. The next morning, he wakes refreshed, and when a colleague shares an idea about starting a side business, he hears it clearly, his mind sharp enough to see the opportunity. Peace opened the way for supply. There was once a woman who ran a small store. Sales were low, and she worried constantly. Every evening, she would sit in her shop, counting the little money she made and saying to herself, "This is not enough, this will never be enough." One day, a customer tried to suggest a new product she could sell, but because her mind was full of worry, she brushed the idea aside. Weeks later, another shop started selling that very product and prospered. Her worry had closed the door. Later, she learned a different way. She began to practice peace. Before opening her shop, she would sit still and speak softly to herself, "Today I choose peace. Today I believe supply will come." One morning, A supplier walked in with an offer of goods at half the price. This time she was calm, open and ready. She accepted the offer and her store began to flourish. Peace had opened the way for supply. Friends, worry is like a heavy fog. When you walk in a fog, you cannot see what is around you. Blessings may be only a few steps away, but you miss them because the fog blinds you. Peace is like the morning sun. It burns away the fog, and suddenly you see paths, doors, and opportunities that were always there. Imagine a conversation between a father and his son. The son says, "Dad, we don't have enough. What will we do?" The father, filled with worry, replies, "I don't know, maybe we will lose everything." The son grows fearful, his heart heavy. The atmosphere in the house becomes dark. But now imagine the same father choosing peace. When his son asks, "Dad, what will we do?" He answers, "We will trust, we will stay calm, and we will find a way." The son feels safe, encouraged, and confident. In that atmosphere of peace, creativity flows, new ideas rise, and provision finds its way to the family. Worry is loud, it screams, it repeats, it takes every possible bad scenario and plays it like a movie in your mind. Peace is quiet but powerful. In the silence of peace, you begin to hear whispers of solutions, nudges of wisdom, and guidance that leads you to supply. Look at daily life. A student preparing for exams who worries too much often forgets everything. Their mind shuts down and fear blocks memory. But the student who studies with peace breathes deeply and says, "I will do my best and the rest will come," often remembers more clearly and performs better. Worry closes, peace opens. A businessman once said to his friend, "I am finished, there is no hope." His friend replied, "No, you are not finished, you are only blinded by worry. Sit, breathe, speak peace, and the answer will appear." Reluctantly, the man tried. He sat quietly, read a psalm, and let peace enter his heart. The very next day, a new investor approached him with an offer. Later he confessed, "The investor was always around me, but I was too worried to see him." Peace opened the way for supply. Consider also a mother who had no food left for her children. She sat crying, filled with worry. Her children saw her fear and became anxious. Later, she learned to change her approach. She began to speak peace even in the empty kitchen, saying, "We will eat tomorrow, supply will come." That evening, a neighbor knocked on the door bringing extra food. The children smiled, their hearts strengthened. Worry had closed the atmosphere before, but peace opened the door for provision to walk in. Peace is not ignoring problems. Peace is facing problems without fear. Peace says, "Oh yes, the bills are real, but the answer is also real." Peace keeps your mind open, your spirit calm, and your heart ready to receive. Worry keeps your fists clenched, but peace keeps your hands open, and open hands can receive supply. Dialogue like this happens every day in people's hearts. One voice says, "What if nothing changes?" Another voice says, "Stay calm, something will change." The voice of worry locks the door. The voice of peace opens it. You get to choose which voice you listen to. Money problems shrink when your heart is filled with assurance. This is not just a phrase, it is a principle that can change the way you see life. Many times, money problems look bigger than they really are, not because of the numbers on the bills, but because of the fear inside the heart. When the heart is restless, even a small problem feels like a mountain. But when the heart is filled with assurance, even a mountain begins to look like a pebble. Picture a man sitting at his desk late at night. The bills are piled in front of him, his head is heavy, and he keeps whispering to himself, "I can't do this, I'm finished, there is no way out." The more he repeats these words, the bigger the bills look. They rise like giants in his imagination. His heart is small, his courage is gone, and everything feels impossible. Now picture the same man in another way. He sits at the same desk, sees the same bills, but this time he whispers with a steady voice, "I don't know how yet, but I believe a way will come. This problem is temporary. My life will not be controlled by these papers." As he speaks assurance into his own soul, his breathing slows down, his body relaxes. The bills are still there, but they no longer look like giants. He sees them as numbers, not as monsters. The problem has not changed, but the size of the problem has shrunk in his heart because assurance grew bigger inside him. Assurance is like light in a dark room. When the room is dark, even a chair looks like a ghost. Even a shadow looks like a threat. But when you turn on the light, the ghost disappears, the shadow fades, and you realize it was only a chair. Money problems are the same. In the darkness of fear, they look terrifying. But when the heart is filled with assurance, light comes in and the problem shrinks to its real size. A woman once said to her friend, "I feel like drowning in my debts. Every day I wake up with fear. Every night I go to bed with tears." Her friend asked, "What do you believe about your future?" She replied, "I believe it will always be this way." The friend looked at her and said, "That belief is making your problem bigger. If you fill your heart with assurance that your tomorrow will be better, the same problem will start looking smaller and solutions will come closer." She struggled to understand, but one night she tried. She spoke to herself before bed, "Tomorrow I will not drown. Tomorrow I will rise." The next morning she felt lighter. The debt was still there, but she began to think clearly. Ideas started flowing. She began selling handmade items to neighbors, then online. Slowly her debt began to shrink. Her assurance created the space for solutions to enter. Dialogue like this happens inside every person. One voice says, "You are finished. You will never make it." Another voice says, "You are stronger than this. A way will open." When you choose the second voice, you are choosing assurance. And when assurance grows, the size of the money problem shrinks. Think about children. When they see a big dog, they may panic and cry. But when their parent holds their hand and says, "Don't be afraid, I'm with you," suddenly the child calms down. The dog is still big, but in the heart of the child, the fear shrinks. In the same way, when you fill your heart with assurance that you are not abandoned, that provision will come, your fear shrinks, and the problem loses its power over you. There was a young man who lost his job. Bills began to collect, rent was late, and his mind was full of fear. Every day he told himself, "I will end up on the streets." His fear grew so large that he could not even apply for new jobs. One day his uncle visited him and said, "Stop telling yourself you are finished. Start telling yourself you will rise again. Money is not bigger than your destiny." Those words gave him assurance. He repeated them daily. "I will rise again. Opportunities are waiting for me." Within weeks, he found not only a new job, but one that paid better than the last. His problem had looked enormous, but once assurance filled his heart, the mountain became a hill, and the hill became a step forward. Assurance does not erase the problem instantly, but it changes how you face it. When you face a problem with fear, you shrink and the problem grows. When you face it with assurance, you grow and the problem shrinks. A father once told his son, "Money problems are like shadows on the wall. When you are far from the light, the shadow looks huge, but when you walk closer to the light, the shadow becomes smaller." The son asked, "What is the light?" The father replied, "The light is assurance, the belief that your tomorrow will be better than today." Everyday life proves this again and again. A shopkeeper may see his sales drop and panic. His fear makes him close early, avoid customers, and miss chances. Another shopkeeper in the same situation fills his heart with assurance, greets every customer with hope, looks for creative ways to sell. Soon his business turns around. The same problem, two different hearts. One heart filled with worry made the problem bigger. The other heart filled with assurance made the problem shrink. Money is important, but your heart is more important. The size of your problem is not determined only by numbers. It is determined by the size of your assurance. When your assurance is weak, small problems feel unbearable. When your assurance is strong, even big problems feel temporary and solvable. Night meditation brings strength for tomorrow's challenges. Many people think that strength only comes from working harder, planning longer, or worrying deeper, but that is not true. Real strength is not built in the noise of the day. It is built in the silence of the night. When the world grows quiet, when the lights go out, and when your mind begins to slow down, that is the time when meditation can pour power into your soul for the battles of tomorrow. Imagine a man who ends his day with nothing but worry. He sits on his bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every mistake, every bill, every problem. In his mind he says, "Tomorrow will be worse, tomorrow will crush me." His heart beats fast, his hands sweat, and finally, he falls asleep with fear in his spirit. The next morning, he wakes up tired, drained before the day even starts. He faces his boss, his deadlines, his money problems, and he has no strength left. He has been fighting battles all night in his imagination, so he has nothing left for the real battles of the day. Now imagine the same man with a different choice. Before sleeping, he sits quietly and breathes deeply. He takes a psalm, whispers it slowly, and lets the words fill his mind. He says, "I will lie down and sleep in peace, for I am safe." Then he thinks of the good things in his life, the small victories, the blessings he still has. He lets his mind settle in gratitude. He repeats softly, "Tomorrow will bring new strength. Tomorrow will bring new answers." His heart slows, his spirit relaxes, and he falls asleep with peace. When morning comes, he wakes up energized, creative, and focused. The same problems are waiting for him, but now he has strength to face them. Dialogue happens inside every heart at night. One voice says, "You are weak, you cannot face tomorrow, you will fail." Another voice whispers, "Be still, you will rise, tomorrow you will have strength." When you choose to meditate on peace, gratitude, and promise, you feed the second voice, and that voice fills you with power. There was once a woman who worked 2 jobs to support her family. Every night she came home exhausted, but instead of resting her spirit, she scrolled endlessly on her phone, filling her mind with more noise, more fear, more negativity. She slept late and woke up weak, her strength fading day after day. One evening, her friend told her, "Try this. Before sleep, put the phone aside, light a small candle, and sit for 10 minutes with a psalm. Close your eyes and breathe the words slowly." At first, she resisted, saying, "I don't have time, I'm too tired." But one night, out of desperation, she tried. She read softly, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." She repeated it, letting the words settle deep. When she woke the next morning, she felt lighter than she had in months. Her children noticed her smile. Her coworkers noticed her energy. Night meditation had poured strength into her for tomorrow's challenges. Think about a student preparing for exams. He studies all day, but at night he fills his head with fear, telling himself, "I will fail, I will never pass." He goes to bed anxious, wakes up tired, and his mind is too clouded to remember what he studied. But another student in the same situation spends 10 minutes at night meditating. He closes his eyes, visualizes himself succeeding, speaks words of calm, and repeats a psalm of confidence. When he wakes, his mind is clear, his memory sharp, and he faces the exam with strength. Night meditation is not complicated. It is simply choosing what you allow into your spirit before sleep. Do you let fear have the last word, or do you let peace have the last word? Do you fill your mind with anxiety, or do you fill it with assurance? Picture a father sitting with his daughter at bedtime. The daughter says, "Dad, I'm scared about tomorrow. What if we don't have enough?" The father has 2 choices. He can say, "I don't know, maybe things will get worse," and fill her with fear. Or he can say, "Let's close our eyes and speak peace together." Then he takes her hand and whispers, "Tomorrow will bring us strength. Tomorrow will bring supply." They sit together in silence for a few moments, breathing calmly. The daughter smiles and drifts into peaceful sleep. The next day, she faces school with joy instead of fear. The father himself feels calmer, more able to tackle his financial issues. Night meditation gave strength to both of them. There was a man running a small business. Sales were dropping, debts were rising, and he was on the verge of quitting. Every night he drank heavily to escape his thoughts, but each morning he woke up weaker, more hopeless. Then an older friend advised him, "Replace your drinking with meditation. Sit in silence, repeat psalms, let your mind be washed with peace." Reluctantly, the man tried. The first night he felt restless. The second night he felt a little calmer. By the third week, he noticed his mornings were no longer heavy. He had fresh ideas for his business, creative solutions that never came before. Slowly, the business recovered. The strength to fight tomorrow's battles was not found in his alcohol, but in his night meditation. Fear takes away strength, peace restores it. When you meditate at night, you are feeding your inner strength. You are telling your soul, "I am ready for tomorrow." And your soul listens. Your body responds. Your mind awakens with clarity. Night meditation is like charging a phone battery. If you go to sleep filled with noise and fear, you wake up at 20%, barely functioning. But if you meditate before bed, you wake up at 100%, ready for anything. Words spoken before sleep work like seeds planted in fertile soil. The mind at night is not the same as the mind during the day. In the daytime, it is busy, noisy, distracted by work, people, and problems. But at night, when you are lying down and your eyes are closing, your heart is open and your subconscious mind is fertile ground. Whatever words you speak in that moment, they do not just disappear into the air, they go deep into the soil of your inner life. Imagine a farmer walking into his field. He carries seeds in his hand. If he throws rocks or thorns instead of seeds, what will grow? Thorns, weeds, trouble. But if he drops good seeds, water them with care, the soil will produce life, fruits, harvest. Your words are those seeds. When you speak worry before sleep, you plant seeds of fear. When you speak anger, you plant seeds of bitterness. But when you speak peace, gratitude, and faith, you plant seeds that will grow into provision, strength, and miracles. Picture a woman who every night says before bed, "I am tired, I am broke, nothing will ever change." These words are like poisonous seeds. She wakes up and the same cycle repeats because her soil is filled with negativity. Her days reflect her words. Now imagine if she changed her declaration. Imagine she whispers at night, "Tomorrow will bring supply, doors will open, I will not lack." Even if her circumstances are the same, the seed is different. She wakes up lighter, more hopeful, and with new energy. Within weeks, opportunities she once overlooked begin to appear. Her business grows, her life improves. The soil of her heart produced what she planted. There was once a father struggling with debt. Every night he sat at the kitchen table telling his wife, "We are finished, we cannot survive this storm." His children heard those words, and the fear entered their hearts too. One day, a friend visited and said, "Why do you keep planting words of failure? Speak life, not death." The father was confused. "How can I speak life when I see only debt?" The friend answered, "The same way a farmer plants seeds when the field is empty. He doesn't wait to see the harvest first. He plants first, believing the harvest will come." That night, the father gathered his children and said, "Listen, from now on, we will speak different words. Yes, we have challenges, but we will rise. Tomorrow will be better than today." At first it felt unnatural, even forced. But the children smiled with relief, his wife's heart grew lighter, and soon new opportunities began to appear. Dialogue inside the mind at night is powerful. One voice says, "This is the end, you will never make it." Another voice says, "Rest, believe, tomorrow will carry blessing." Whichever voice you choose to give words to becomes the seed. If you water the negative voice, it grows into more problems. If you water the voice of peace and faith, it grows into solutions. Think of a young student. Every night she says to herself, "I am not smart enough, I will fail." Her grades suffer not because she lacks intelligence, but because the seed of failure is planted nightly in her heart. Another student in the same class, before sleeping, whispers, "I am capable, I will remember what I studied, I will succeed." She plants confidence into her soil. When the exam comes, her mind produces what she planted. The subconscious is like a garden that never rejects a seed. If you plant a rose, it grows. If you plant a thorn, it grows. The soil does not choose, it only produces. So what words do you plant before you sleep? A man once confessed, "I keep saying to myself every night, I am poor, I am unlucky, nothing will ever work." His mentor asked him, "And what happens the next day?" He replied, "The next day feels the same, problems repeat, no change." The mentor leaned closer and said, "You are reaping the harvest of your own words. Change the seed and the harvest will change." That night, the man forced himself to speak differently. "I am not poor, I am rich in opportunity. Doors are opening for me." He spoke it even when he did not believe it. Weeks later, he stumbled into a new job that paid twice as much as his old one. He realized his words were preparing his soil for that breakthrough. Parents especially carry power in their words at night. A child who hears, "We are hopeless, life is hard, nothing will change," grows up with seeds of fear. But a child who hears, "Tomorrow will be brighter, we are strong, we will overcome," grows up with seeds of courage. Those seeds will shape their future. There was a shopkeeper who spoke to himself every night. At first his words were bitter. No one buys from me, my shop is dying. But then he remembered the principle of the seed. He changed his nightly words. Customers will come, my shop will grow, my work will prosper. His neighbors laughed at him, but within months, new clients began to appear. He did not just change his shop, he changed his soil. Every time you close your eyes at night, remember the soil of your mind is waiting. It does not rest, it absorbs, it records, it multiplies. If you speak lack, it multiplies lack. If you speak abundance, it multiplies abundance. Words are not empty, they are containers of life or death. So when you lie down, whisper something powerful. Tell yourself, I will wake up stronger. Tomorrow will surprise me with goodness. Supply is on the way. Let those seeds sink deep. As you sleep, they grow quietly. You may not see it immediately, but just like a seed hidden underground, growth is happening in silence. And one day, you will wake up walking into the harvest of the very words you planted the night before. Gratitude attracts provision. Thank before you ask. Many people live their whole lives in the rhythm of asking, and asking again. Their words are always, I need this, I want that, give me more. But the secret is this, provision does not multiply in the soil of complaint, it multiplies in the soil of gratitude. When your heart learns to thank before it asks, doors open faster, supply arrives easier, and life flows smoother. Gratitude is like a magnet, it pulls resources, opportunities, and favor toward you. Picture a man at the dinner table. He looks at the food and sighs, this is not enough. Why do I never get what I deserve? His heart is bitter, and his children see his discontent. The food on the table loses its sweetness because his words poison the atmosphere. Now imagine the same man, same table, same food, but this time he bows his head and says softly, thank you for this meal. It may be simple, but is a gift. Tomorrow, more will come. His children smile, the atmosphere changes, and their hearts feel full even if the plates are not overflowing. Gratitude turned little into plenty, while complaint turned plenty into nothing. Dialogue inside the human heart is always happening. One voice says, you don't have enough, you are lacking, you must chase more. Another voice whispers, look at what you already have, look at the small blessings, be thankful. When you choose the second voice, something powerful happens. What you thank for grows, what you ignore disappears. There was once a young woman struggling to pay her bills. Every day she complained, life is unfair, others have so much, I have so little. One day her friend asked her, tell me one thing you are grateful for today. She resisted at first, nothing is good. Her friend insisted, look deeper. Finally she said, well, at least I have my health and my children are safe. Her friend replied, start with that. Thank for it every night before you ask for anything else. She tried reluctantly. Each night she whispered, thank you for my health, thank you for my children. Slowly her heart softened. She began to notice other small blessings, a neighbor's kindness, a discount at the store, an unexpected ride to work. Within months her attitude shifted, and with her attitude, her provision shifted. She received a promotion at work, then an opportunity to earn extra income. She confessed later, it was gratitude that attracted the change. When I thanked first, supply came after. Think of a student preparing for exams. One spends the night saying, I will never pass, I don't have enough intelligence, nothing works for me. Another student, in the same condition, says, thank you that I can study, thank you that I remember what I learn. The second student, filled with gratitude, sleeps peacefully and wakes up ready. His calmness attracts clarity, his gratitude attracts results. The first student, full of complaint, wakes up drained and performs poorly. The difference was not only talent but the power of gratitude. A father once told his son, you must learn to thank before you ask. If you only ask without thanking, your heart grows empty. But if you thank first, even the smallest gift feels rich. The son asked, but what if I don't have much to thank for? The father smiled and said, start with breath, start with life, start with one thing. When you thank for little, it grows into much. There was a shopkeeper who struggled daily. Customers were few, money was short. He used to say to himself every night, My shop is dying, I will close soon. One evening he decided to change his words. He looked at his small shelf, his modest sales, and whispered, "Thank you for the customers who came today. Thank you for the little profit I made." He repeated it each night. His gratitude gave him energy to greet customers warmly, to serve with joy, to smile even when tired. People began to notice his attitude and return to his shop again and again. His gratitude attracted provision. Gratitude changes your vision. When you complain, your eyes only see what is missing. When you thank, your eyes suddenly notice what is present. Opportunities were always around, but complaint blinded you to them. Gratitude opens your eyes wide to see. Think about two friends. One says, "I don't have enough money, life is hard, nothing works." The other says, "I may not have everything I want, but I am grateful for what I have. I know more is coming." The first friend feels heavy, depressed, and doors seem closed. The second friend feels light, hopeful, and somehow finds doors opening. The difference is not luck, it is gratitude. A mother once taught her children before sleeping, "Tonight let us thank for 3 things." The children would say, "Thank you for food, thank you for our bed, thank you for each other." Night after night they repeated this. Years later, those children grew up confident, positive, and successful. They carried the habit of gratitude into adulthood, and provision followed them. Words are seeds, but gratitude is water. Even if you plant seeds of effort, if you do not water them with gratitude, they remain dry. Gratitude is the force that nourishes your actions and makes them bear fruit. Gratitude attracts provision. Thank before you ask. When you thank, your heart expands. When your heart expands, it has space to receive. When you only complain, your heart shrinks. And even when provision comes, it slips away because there is no space to hold it. Imagine this conversation. A man kneels and says, "I have nothing, give me more." Another man kneels and says, "Thank you for the little I have, now I ask for more." Which heart do you think attracts provision? The one that recognizes the gift already given, not the one blind to it. Gratitude is not only a polite gesture, it is a law of life. It is the rhythm of abundance. Thank before you ask, and you will discover that life gives more to those who recognize what they already hold. Miracles often appear in simple, quiet trust, not loud striving. Many people believe that if they shout louder, work harder, stress more, and run endlessly, the breakthrough will come. They think miracles respond to panic, to noise, to desperation. But the truth is different. Miracles have a way of showing up when the heart is calm, when the mind rests, when the soul whispers, "It will be okay." It is not in the thunder of effort, but in the silence of trust that miracles are born. Imagine a man drowning in bills. Every day he runs in circles, chasing money, worrying about how to pay rent, shouting at his family, blaming everyone. The more he strives, the more exhausted he feels. His heart beats fast, his nights are sleepless, his mornings are heavy, yet nothing changes. Then one night, instead of panicking, he sits quietly, breathes deeply, and says to himself, "I will trust, I will rest tonight. Tomorrow will bring what I need." For the first time in weeks, he sleeps peacefully. The next day, he sees an opportunity he had been blind to before. A friend calls with an offer. A door opens. It wasn't his striving that invited the miracle. It was his quiet trust. There was once a woman waiting for healing. She had tried everything, visiting doctor after doctor, taking every supplement, crying in frustration. One day, exhausted, she stopped fighting. She sat in her garden, watching the sky, and whispered, "I trust." In that moment, she felt peace she hadn't known in years. Slowly, her body began to recover. The miracle did not come when she shouted at the heavens in anger. It came when she sat still, like a child resting in the arms of something greater than her struggle. Life often mirrors water. When water is still, you can see your reflection clearly. When it is shaken and restless, everything looks distorted. The human heart works the same way. When your spirit is frantic, when your mind races, you miss the answers that are right in front of you. But when you are still, when you trust quietly, clarity comes, and with clarity, miracles follow. Picture 2 farmers. The first digs furiously, shouting at the ground, "Grow faster, give me harvest now." His hands bleed, his face sweats, and still the seeds do not grow. The second farmer plants his seeds gently, waters them, and then rests. He does not yell at the soil. He trusts the process. Weeks later, his field blooms with harvest. The miracle was never in the striving, it was in the trust that the soil and the seed knew their work. A father once told his son, "If you hold sand tightly in your fist, it slips through your fingers. But if you open your palm and let it rest, the sand stays." Striving is like squeezing. Trust is like opening your palm. Miracles rest in open hands, not clenched fists. Dialogue often plays inside the restless heart. One voice says, "You must do more, hurry, worry, panic, or you will lose everything." Another voice whispers, "You have done enough. Now rest, trust, wait, and let life move." The first voice makes your heart heavy, the second makes it light. And when your heart is light, miracles find their way in. Think of a student preparing for exams. One studies frantically, staying up all night, repeating in fear, "I will fail, I will fail." Exhaustion takes over and he forgets what he studied. Another student studies but then closes the book, breathes, and says, "I trust what I learned will stay with me." She rests well, her mind is fresh, and during the exam she remembers clearly. Her miracle was not in endless striving, but in quiet trust. There was a shopkeeper who every day shouted his workers, panicked at every low sale, and lived in constant anxiety. His business barely survived. One day, an older merchant visited him and said, "You are strangling your own shop with fear. Relax, trust, treat your customers with peace." Reluctantly, he tried it. He stopped shouting, he welcomed people with calmness, he trusted that provision would come. Soon his shop began to attract more customers. The miracle appeared not in his striving but in his trust. Quiet trust does not mean doing nothing. It means doing what you can, then resting in faith instead of tormenting yourself with fear. Striving is when you plant a seed and dig it up every hour to see if it's growing. Trust is when you plant it, water it, and allow it to grow unseen. The miracle happens underground where your eyes cannot see, and only patience brings it to the surface. A young man once said, "I prayed, I shouted, I cried, but nothing changed." His mentor replied, "You tried to force the miracle. Stop striving, start trusting." Sometimes the soil needs silence for the seed to sprout. The young man listened. Instead of begging every night in despair, he began to whisper softly, "I trust the miracle is already moving." Weeks later, an unexpected door opened. Miracles are like the dawn. You cannot force the sun to rise faster by shouting at the horizon. No matter how much you strive, it will not appear until it's time. But if you sit in quiet trust, waiting, the sun will rise without fail. In daily life, this truth repeats again and again. A mother worried about her son does everything to control him, shouts, argues, cries. Nothing works. Finally, she releases him in trust, stops fighting, and simply loves him quietly. In that space, the boy feels safe, and slowly he changes. The miracle of his transformation appeared not in loud striving, but in quiet trust. Look at nature. The tree does not strive to grow tall. It trusts the rain, it trusts the sun, it trusts the soil. Quietly, day after day, it grows into something magnificent. You never hear it scream or panic. Its strength is in its trust, and that is why its growth feels like a miracle. When you stop striving so loudly, you make space to hear the whisper of guidance that was always present. In noise, you miss it. In quiet trust, you catch it. And often, that one whisper is the key to the miracle you were chasing so hard. When you rest in promise, you rise in provision. Many people are exhausted not because life is too heavy, but because they carry it without trust. They live as if everything depends on their frantic effort, their endless striving, their sleepless nights. They believe if they don't push every second, everything will collapse. Yet the truth is this: when you rest in the promise that provision will come, you rise higher than you ever could through panic. Rest is not laziness. It is confidence that the ground beneath your feet will hold you, that the next step is already provided before you take it. Imagine a man standing in the middle of a storm. The winds are loud, the rain is beating against his body, and he shouts into the chaos, "I must hold everything together, or I will drown." His fists are clenched, his body is trembling, and his strength is fading. Then suddenly, he hears a gentle voice inside his heart, "Rest in the promise, not in the panic." Slowly he loosens his grip, lifts his head, And even though the storm has not ended, he feels lighter. His rest in the promise gives him strength to stand until the storm passes. Think of a woman overwhelmed by debts. She lies awake night after night, counting the bills, whispering, "I will never make it, I am finished." The more she repeats it, the heavier her chest feels, the darker her days become. Then one evening, instead of repeating her fears, she places the bills on the table, closes her eyes, and whispers, "I rest in the promise that my needs will be supplied." She falls asleep not with fear, but with calmness. The next morning, she notices a message from a former employer offering her part-time work. Days later, a friend connects her to a new opportunity. Provision begins to rise, not because she panicked harder, but because she rested in the promise. Dialogue inside your soul shapes your reality. One voice says, "You are on your own, you must carry it all, and if you fail, everything collapses." Another voice says, "You are not alone, promises are stronger than panic, and rest is a seed for provision." Whichever voice you trust becomes your reality. There was once a farmer who planted his crops. Every day he dug up the soil to see if the seeds were growing. He could not rest. The neighbors laughed, saying, "You are killing your harvest with your worry." Finally, exhausted, he left the soil untouched and rested. Weeks later, green shoots appeared. He realized that growth happens when you trust the unseen process, not when you tear the soil apart in anxiety. Provision rises when you rest. Picture a student preparing for exams. One studies all night in fear, whispering, "I will fail, I will fail." His eyes are red, his memory is clouded, and during the exam, panic steals his answers. Another student studies with diligence, but then closes the book, takes a deep breath, and says, "I rest in the promise that what I learned will remain in me." He sleeps peacefully, wakes up refreshed, and writes with clarity. Both studied, but only one rested in the promise. His provision was not more hours of fear, but the calmness of trust. A businessman once confessed, "I push myself every day until I collapse, but still nothing changes." His mentor replied, "You are rowing your boat against the current. Rest in the promise, and the current will carry you farther than your own arms ever could." The businessman resisted at first, but eventually he tried. Instead of drowning in anxiety, he took time each night to breathe, to think, to rest. He discovered new ideas flowed when his mind was calm. Clients responded better when his energy was peaceful. His provision rose when his striving ceased. Look at the way a bird lives. It does not panic about tomorrow's worm. It rests in the promise that when morning comes, provision will be there. So it sings at dawn, not with worry but with trust. It does not store up barns or cry in the night. It rests, and in its resting, provision appears each day. There was a mother raising 3 children alone. She worked 2 jobs, barely slept, and constantly told herself, "I must do everything or my children will suffer." One evening she collapsed in tears. A neighbor found her and said, "You cannot carry the whole world on your shoulders. Rest in the promise that provision will come." Reluctantly she slowed down, began to trust more, and to her surprise, her sister stepped in to help. A local program offered support, and opportunities for extra income appeared. Her children felt her calmness, and their home grew lighter. Provision rose the moment she allowed herself to rest. Dialogue between 2 friends paints the picture well. One says, "I am tired, but I cannot stop, because if I rest, I will lose everything." The other replies, "I choose to rest in the promise, because in that rest, strength returns, and when strength returns, provision flows." The first friend keeps chasing, keeps falling, keeps burning out. The second rises quietly, steadily, almost effortlessly, because he tapped into the power of rest. When you rest in promise, your vision clears. Panic makes you blind, rest makes you see. In panic, you miss open doors because you are too busy staring at the closed ones. In rest, your eyes notice the small opportunities that lead to larger breakthroughs. Life is not meant to be lived as constant battle. Even the strongest warrior must rest, for battles are won not only by the sword, but by the strategy born in silence. Provision is not only found in rushing, but in receiving. When a tree grows, it does not force itself taller in panic. It rests in the soil, rests in the sunlight, rests in the rain. By resting, it rises. Your life is no different. Provision is drawn not by frantic striving, but by trusting rest. When you rest in promise, you rise in provision. It is a law written into the fabric of life, a quiet truth waiting for anyone willing to let go of panic and trust that the unseen hand is already at work. There comes a moment when words stop being just sounds and become a mirror for the heart. Everything you have heard, everything you have felt, it now comes down to one decision. Will you keep living the same way, chasing, worrying, striving, complaining, or will you step into a new rhythm, a rhythm of trust, of gratitude, of rest, of faith? Life is not waiting to punish you. Life is waiting to respond to the seeds you plant, to the words you release, to the posture of your heart. You can spend your nights replaying problems, or you can turn those same nights into a stage where miracles rehearse their entrance into your tomorrow. Look at your life right now. Every bill, every burden, every fear. You might think they are chains around your neck, but I tell you tonight, they are only shadows. Shadows look big, but they have no power unless you bow to them. When you rise in courage, when you whisper words of hope, when you dare to thank in advance, shadows shrink and light takes their place. Imagine yourself holding a key in your hand. That key is not made of metal. It is made of words, of gratitude, of trust. Every night before you close your eyes, you turn that key, and doors begin to open in the unseen. Doors of opportunity, doors of provision, doors of healing, doors of restoration. But the key will not turn in the hands of a complainer. It will not turn in the hands of someone who only shouts in fear. It turns in the hands of the one who whispers quietly, I believe, I think, I rest, I trust. People ask, how do miracles come overnight? I say, they do not come to the restless who dig up their seed in doubt. They come to the dreamer who plants and rests. They come to the heart that says, I may not see it yet, but I already know it is on the way. It is like a farmer who sleeps at night and wakes up to find the field blooming. He did not create the growth, he trusted the process. You may say, I am tired. I have tried everything, nothing works. Let me tell you, sometimes it is not about trying more. Sometimes it is about trusting deeper. Sometimes it is not about fighting harder. Sometimes it is about surrendering sooner. A river does not fight to flow, it simply moves with its current. Stop fighting the current of life and begin to flow with it. Let me give you this picture. Two people walk into the same storm. One is shouting, panicking, cursing the rain. The other lifts his head, spreads his arms, and says, this storm will pass, and I will still be standing. The first comes out broken, the second comes out stronger. The storm was the same, the difference was the heart. If you want your tomorrow to look different, change the words you speak tonight. If you want money problems to vanish, don't feed them with fear before you sleep. Speak abundance, speak peace, speak promise. If you want your health to recover, don't rehearse pain in your mind at midnight. Declare strength even while weak. If you want your family restored, don't plant words of anger, plant words of love. What you speak in darkness shines in daylight. The most powerful dialogue you will ever have is not with the world, but with yourself. When the world says you cannot, tell yourself, I can. When the world says it is over, tell yourself, it is just beginning. When the world says there is no way, tell yourself, a way is already opening. Do not let the voice of fear be the loudest in your head. Amplify the voice of trust, amplify the voice of gratitude, amplify the voice of peace. Someone here has been thinking, my problem is too big. Let me remind you, no mountain stands forever, no night lasts without a dawn, no storm remains without a rainbow. Your problem may be loud, but your promise is louder. Your pain may be deep, but your purpose is deeper. Your lack may scream, but your destiny whispers stronger. You are not here to live as a beggar to life. You are here to reign as a victor over life. Every time you choose gratitude over complaint, you rise. Every time you choose trust over fear, you rise. Every time you rest in promise, you rise. Rising does not mean problems vanish instantly. It means you step above them, you see from higher ground, and from there, provision always finds you. Remember this, diamonds are made under pressure, gold is purified in fire, strong men and women are shaped in struggle. Do not curse your struggle, use it. Let it refine you, not define you. Say to yourself, this challenge is not my end, it is my training ground. This lack is not my identity, it is my classroom for abundance. Every great dreamer had a night where nothing made sense, where everything seemed lost, but they chose to speak life instead of death. They chose to see promise instead of pain, and that choice became the turning point. Tonight can be your turning point. Tonight can be the moment where you stop bowing to fear and start rising in faith. There is a fire inside you that problems cannot extinguish. There is a strength in you that debt cannot bury. There is a light in you that darkness cannot overcome. But you must choose to see it, to believe it, to speak it, to trust it. So tonight, when you close your eyes, do not rehearse your pain, rehearse your promise. Do not count your lack, count your blessings. Do not whisper defeat, whisper destiny. Because the words you speak in the stillness of the night are the seeds that will bloom in the brightness of the morning. Life is waiting for your declaration. The soil is waiting for your seed. The door is waiting for your key. The miracle is waiting for your whisper. What you choose tonight will shape what you see tomorrow, and tomorrow can be greater, richer, brighter, stronger than anything you have ever known, if only you dare to rest in the promise and rise in the provision that is already prepared for you.